Hi. So we go on lots and lots of road trips because my partner, Mr. Smaggle, and I live very far away from our hometown. So we drive there, and it is a 7.5 hour drive, which is kind of awful because it's very, very boring. We can actually get from our front door to my parents' front door doing only 3 turns in 7 hours. So we have the whole road trip thing down pat. So I want to take you through a few things today that we do on road trips to make them less horrifically awful. So the first thing that we do, we always make sure that we have all of our entertainment completely downloaded and ready to go before we get in the car, because there's nothing worse than being stuck on a horrible highway, particularly in Australia where we have rubbish internet and you can't download the next episode of the podcast that you're listening to. So before you hit the road, make sure you have all of the podcasts downloaded that you want on your phone. Download them properly to make sure that they're on your phone and not just floating in the air. You can also make sure that you have an Audible book downloaded as well. I just recently joined Audible. It's amazing. I have been listening to nothing but audiobooks in the last couple of days, and I'm such a podcast junkie. So make sure that you have your books downloaded beforehand. If you are a passenger in the car, you could even have an iPad playing a TV show or a movie if you like. If you're driving, don't do that because that's naughty. Tip number 2 is to pack snacks. So we always pack snacks when we go on road trips. We like to make sure that they're really healthy, because if you eat a lot of sugar or things that are high in saturated fat or high in sugar when you're on a road trip, it makes you really sleepy and you want to keep your energy levels up. So this is a little taster of what we generally pack on our road trips. We usually pack a lot of nuts. We have fruit. Usually hard-boiled eggs is another really good one. Make sure that you have some sort of a plastic bag or disposable garbage thing in your car, because boiled eggs are really stanky when you peel them when you're in the car. It's not fun. So make sure you wind down the window when you peel them. And also cherry tomatoes, that kind of thing. We also sometimes pack muesli bars or protein bars, heaps and heaps of water, and we also pack thermoses. So we've got 2 big thermoses, and we fill one with coffee and one with tea. And then, we just like pour them into our little travel mugs as we're traveling along on the road. The next tip I have is to pack a first aid kit. Now, that seems like a little intense, but you will totally thank yourself for it if you happen to get an injury, or if you like burn yourself or something, or you need a Band-Aid, or you need hand sanitizer. Pack all that stuff into a first aid kit and keep it in the car permanently. That way you have everything you need while you're on the road. Tip number 4 is my favorite tip, and it's something that we have invented quite recently. Well, we didn't actually invent it, like it was already a concept, but we've got a little trick that makes you actually stick to it. So in our family, Mr. Smaggle always likes to drive because he gets really bad car sickness, and if he's driving, he doesn't get car sick. And also, I like driving, but he tends to like it more, so I've never really fussed much about who's driving. But we've invented a system where, because the way we used to do it was he'd drive for 8 hours, and then I'd just sort of randomly give him a break halfway along the way. He'd sleep for a little while, jump back in the car. We'd both arrive exhausted, because the thing is that if you drive for 9 hours, you're completely exhausted. And if you're a passenger for 9 hours, you're completely exhausted. So the best way to do this is to set a timer for 90 minutes, and then every 90 minutes you swap. The trick, though, is that you have to stick to the swap. You can't just be like, oh, I don't mind, I'll just keep driving. You have to pull over and stop. So what we've been doing is every 90 minutes, we swap, but we pull over on the side of the road. We have a drink of water. Sometimes we even do some star jumps on the side of the road and like kind of splamp around a bit and, move our bodies a bit. And then we switch again. And we've done this twice now. We did it for a 10-hour drive, and then we did it for an 8-hour drive. And it's like we're different people when we arrive at our destination. We're not tired, we're not grumpy, because it's just really hard to concentrate on one thing for 9 hours. I don't even want to do things I like for 9 hours, let alone be stuck on a road for 9 hours. That's super boring. If you've ever driven from Melbourne to Canberra, you'll know the very, very boring road that I'm talking about. So give the 90-minute break a rule. If you have someone who can drive and switch the driving with you, it makes such a big difference. My final tip is this is a camping pillow that we have. We usually obviously take it camping, and it's a roll up pillow. We actually keep it in the car permanently. The reason why we do that is because I fall asleep immediately whenever I'm in a car. Literally, like we'll be going down the road for 20 minutes and I'll fall asleep. So this is a pillow that rolls out, and once you give it a few minutes, hang on, I'll pop it this way. Once you give it a few minutes, it puffs out like that. It's a perfect little size to keep in the car because inevitably, if you're going to be in a car for 9 hours, you're going to sleep. So there's no point in trying to pretend like you're not going to. Just embrace it. Have a roll up pillow in the car. I tend to use I use this all the time. I use it several times a week. Like we'll be driving to the movies, which is a 20-minute drive, and I'll start nodding off, and Mrs. Snaggle will just like pop a pillow under my head and I'll have a bit of a wooze. Yeah, so it's super important to have that in the car. And I mean, if you're going to sleep, you might as well be comfy. Another thing that a lot of people don't really consider is the eye mask. Now, this one, it's a little bit skanky just because we've had it for so long. We've just washed it and worn it and washed it and worn it. This is actually Mr. Smaggle's eye mask, but we use these when we sleep every night. We're those weirdos that sleep wearing eye masks. It's a whole thing. But if you're going to be in the car, you're probably going to have sun in your eyes if you're driving during the day, and this just makes such a big difference. You just tuck in with your little pillow, put your little eye mask on, and it's like you're in this little sleep cocoon. So yeah, those are my tips for going on epic road trips and lasting the distance. These tips will be particularly excellent for Australians because we tend to drive a lot in Australia because it's so huge and flights are very expensive. So for anyone who goes on long road trips, I hope these tips were helpful.